All right, guys, I'm going to be going over one specific chapter on this book that I wrote, Common Myths About Dogs Debunked. So in this book, I have different myths that you hear about all the time when it comes to dogs. And these are myths that come from pet owners, also myths that come from dog trainers. So one myth that I'm going to be talking about in this video is the following. This is very, very common. If my dog doesn't like people, so if my dog doesn't like someone, I should be wary of them. Dogs are good judges of character. This is a huge one. So basically, if your dog doesn't like a person, do you go, there must be something wrong with that person because dogs are really good judge of character? And here's what it really goes. I'm not going to read you word by word, but here's really what it comes down to. It could be a factor. Okay, dogs can actually, they can perceive intention to a degree. Okay, so that does happen. It has happened. Those can be good judge of character, but here's what happens 99% of the times. Okay, 99% of the times you hear pet owners talk about this, and usually what happens is it's their dog just hasn't been exposed to a certain person, a certain type of person. Dogs need to be exposed to as many different types of stimuli as they possibly can be in the first 16 to 20 weeks of their lives. Okay, so if they don't expose to a certain type of person, yes, a dog later on might see somebody who they have never seen the type of person like that before, and then they just will lose their shit. Okay, you hear about this with dogs that are racist, or dogs that don't like people in uniform. And these are things that could be prevented in the first 16 weeks of the dog's lives by introducing them to a bunch of different type of people, right? People in uniform, people of different ethnicities, people of different builds. And that way, when they see somebody like that later on, they don't freak out. Because a lot of times, that's what people see. They see their dog freak out, and in reality, the dog is just freaked out. Okay? It has nothing to do with the character of that person. Okay? And here's why. I've seen real assholes out there with dogs, and their dogs love them. And I've seen really super nice people that their dogs ignore them. All their dogs don't really care for. It really depends on the dog and their perception of that person. Most of the time, it has nothing to do with the person's character. Okay? The other thing, too, that I talk about here is, dogs have this thing called temperament. And, I did talk about the first 16 to 20 weeks of the dog's lives being very important, a very important window to socialize them and really expose them to a bunch of different stimuli in a nice, safe, and proper way. But there are dogs that you could do that to the best level of professionalism, and, you could do that really, really nicely. But you'll still have a dog every once in a while that just doesn't care. Like, you know what? This is my temperament. I just don't like people, period. That's what temperament is. It is a very inherent list or set of traits that a dog has. And the dog just decides, I just don't really like people. I'm not a fan, okay? You could also see dogs that have never been socialized, have never been exposed, but they're the friendliest dogs. They're really nice dogs. And again, that traces back to temperament. So if your dog loses his shit when they see a person, don't automatically assume that that person is a bad person, okay? Now, occasionally, there are times in which that does happen, okay? If you've never experienced this, yeah, that's an actual thing. And usually what happens is the dog is nice with everybody and everybody's fine. Those normally a very social dog, but only every once in a blue moon, the person that it liked very, very nice 5 seconds ago, suddenly it's just now becoming a little bit weary of that person. And I've heard about stories like this. I know what's happening. I've seen dogs and I've heard of dogs that are best friends with, with your boyfriend, and they'll, hang out with them. But the second the boyfriend tries to put a beating on you, now the dog reacts very, very differently. That's not the bulk of the dogs out there. The majority of people that say, my dog is protecting me, or the majority of people that say, oh, you know, my dog doesn't like that person, so it's gotta be because there's something wrong with that person. 99% of the times that is not accurate. Your dog is either just a spook, or your dog has just never seen a person like that, or there is something odd about this person, and it might not necessarily be their character. Okay, so that's what this section talks about.